Hello and welcome back to the DP World Tour Picks and Bets show on the Mayo Media Network. I'm joined, as I was last week, by Ryan Baroff. Ryan, very, very close last week. Second and third place for you with Martin Coover in second, third place with Dan Bradbury. But not to forget the 1,000 to 1 Vicky Fossa, who actually finished inside the top 10. I think you had a top 20 for him, but wouldn't have had T10 and ties or anything like that. Had a handsome payday from that as well.
Yeah, that was a good one, 12 to 1 on the top 20. He was probably pretty similar for the low Italian market. I didn't bet that, but I know some people did. Yeah, really frustrating week. Obviously, it felt for most of the weekend like Cooper was going to win. He didn't play badly, just, obviously you ran into a buzzsaw in Adrian Sadier on that back nine. Bradbury, kind of the story with him, right? Ball striking continues to be great, and he just doesn't make enough 8-footers. That was kind of the difference between him and with Sadier, just extra salty because I believe I hit 2 top 5s on him this year when we had him, and he couldn't get across the line, mostly because of the putter, and then he just poured in every 20-footer he looked at yesterday.
Yeah, we had Shaper and Lindell finish tied 10th, didn't really get into the places for us, but it seemed to be, Ryan, fairly straightforward last week. We don't really say that very often about the DP World Tour, but Sadier's been playing great all season. Coover, you liked. Bradbury, you liked. Callum Hill is, one of the better players on form. I guess Clement Sordet a little bit different, but that's 3 Frenchmen in the top 5 of the Italian Open. And then Von Dunningham has been good since he won. So, and then the other runs, kind of Ayora, Lopez, Jakara, and Schneider were all informed. Laporta we talked about. It was fairly straightforward, to be honest. Obviously,
it seemed that way. Yeah, it did seem that way. I think a new course, we didn't have a lot to go on, but it really sort of played into that firm, windy, fast, a lot more accuracy based. It seemed like, and ultimately, it just came down to putting. It seemed like. Yeah. There were a lot of irons off the tee down the stretch, a lot of weird little holes. But I think Sadier actually lost strokes ball striking this week, for what it's worth, though.
Sadier's been threatening to this for a while now, and kind of glad that he's broken through, to be quite honest, because he's a player that's been on the fringes for much of his career, and then last year or so has been really, really encouraging. So good to see him break through. This week, we're back in Germany, Ryan, for the BMW International Open. Kind of have quite fond memories of this event, not so much just from a betting perspective, but I think it was a really good run where it's kind of like Pablo Larrafa and Henrik Stenson back-to-back years. Larrafa beat Stenson one year, and then Stenson won the following year, beat Ollerson. Matt Wallace won it in 2018. We've had some kind of big names. Hovland beat Keimer, Houghton Lee Peters. It's actually a really good event, and BMW have obviously got the money to throw around to kind of get some of these better guys in the field, and as it's panned out, they've kind of got the live guys over. But it's a decent event, I think.
Yeah, I think so. There's still a few names that I expected to be here. Where's Steven Jaeger? I feel like he's played this a couple times, and I thought that he was at least a fringe Ryder Cup discussion, and just seems like he's not going to play the events that he needs to over here. But yeah, definitely a good field. Patrick Reed obviously off the win, Puig and Sergio coming from live, both of them really playing pretty well. I think Sergio got his open spot. Did I see that correctly yesterday? Yeah. So Puig obviously still looking. Patrick Reed will be there, obviously. And then we have more of our sort of normal favorites here. I think we're still waiting for Rasmus Nygaard Peterson to get his win here. But as you probably do, I sort of have a firm and fast rule that when we're on the DP World Tour, I'm not betting anybody under 20 or 25 to 1. So I skip this whole range.
I've done it a couple of times this season, but I've done it in the sense of like it was Houghton when he was just playing unbelievably well, and he's going to win. One every 2 years or whatever, even if he's in form. You can rely on him to get the win. But when it starts getting to kind of Nygaard, Peterson, Puig, you don't really know about. I don't really want to take 12 to 1 about Patrick Reed, regardless of how well he's playing. Like I wasn't even really interested in the sub-30 range. I must admit, the kind of first time I looked at this top of the board was Matti Schmid, and I actually thought he was going to win the John Deere Classic, so I'm pretty disappointed that he's over here. I have a weird kind of correlation with that and the Charles Schwab, and it's Charles Schwab and Shriners, and he pays off in both of those events, and I think he's played one John Deere before. So I thought it was going to be a playoff between Matty Schmidt and Harry Hall, and neither of them were playing it. So went back to the drawing board with that event. But yeah, I think the top of the board's kind of fair, right? Like I don't know if we can really look at other people at the top. I'm surprised they're still hanging. You're going to talk about one guy. I'm surprised they're still hanging numbers on kind of Chikara. They seem to finally be pushing Nakajima out. But I felt like they were taking a couple of chances, and hopefully we take advantage of them here on the odds board. So I'll kind of let you kick things off with a couple of your shortest picks, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, definitely looked at a couple guys. Schmidt was one of them. I think the other one probably would have been Marco Pence. Just, I kind of believe in the long-term talent. But I started at 40-1 with defending champion, Ewan Ferguson, obviously 4th and 2nd recently, easily could have won both of those events. He was sort of there. He had a bad Sunday at the Soudal Open. He wasn't really close at the KLM, but, he still finished tied for 4th. So there's something there. Played terribly last weekend in Italy, but, he still made the cut. Obviously won here last year, also has a T21 here. Just feel like he's the type of player that has shown plenty of winning upside, and he's in really good form right now. So was kind of surprised. I took him at 40, and the next guy, Martin Kuvra, also at 40. I don't really need to say much there. He is a recent winner for us. He continues, basically, he's a top 3 player on that tour right now. Iron play is great. Hits it plenty long off the tee, which I think you need here. He really looked like he was going to win all weekend. So I have both of them at 40-1, and that is actually in the market without the top 4. So just exceptionally generous numbers there when you don't have to worry about Reed, Rasmus, Puig, and Sergio.
Yeah, and I think, look, I don't necessarily expect any one of those 4 to even win, but like the fact that you can take off, especially Ryu's 12-1, like the fact that you can even just get rid of him and keep the same numbers on some of these guys is unbelievable. So
exactly,
good value identification there with Ferguson and Kuvra. I sort of echo the statements. Both of them were kind of, I guess Kuvra probably more than Ferguson for me, but they were both kind of on the short list, and I can absolutely see the thinking on both. I went slightly further down, Ryan, with Nikolai von Dellinghausen, who kind of wrote in my article that, at the start of the year, I didn't view him as a potential winner, and you kind of have to realign your thoughts slightly and kind of what is a player at this point. I mean, he's 32 years of age, but he's sustained a bit of period of form now. He was 10th after round 1 at the Turkish Airlines Open, still inside the top 30 going into the weekend, and just struggled there to close it out. Then he did miss the cut of the Soudal, which I'm not massively excited about, because I think there is a bit of crossover between the Soudal and this event. If you look at kind of recent winners, I think that's actually something to focus on and use as a bonus, but willing to kind of overlook it slightly. And I just think he's, not been adjusted to in the market as much as I thought he would. I know he's obviously, generally speaking, a triple-digit player, and we're now talking about him at kind of 60s and 50s, but, he wins that Austrian Open. He was good all week, right? Like he was 2nd for the first 3 rounds, finished 1st. He never shot worse than 66, really kept his foot down. At the KLM, he started slowly, which isn't a massive surprise, given he just won for the first time, but then shoots a pair of 69s over the weekend in kind of tough scoring editions, finishes 7th. And then last week, opens pretty nicely, 68 at the Italian, and then shoots a final round 65 to finish 5th. And I just thought, looking at that, going back to kind of some comments in recent podcasts, like thinking about this kind of lack of depth on the tour now, when someone is kind of showing that form, and look, I don't think this is, we talk about people being a shoe-in for like PGA Tour cards and can adapt over there. He's not that type of player, but just grinding out results and kind of each way places on this tour, I feel like he should be a little bit more respected. He's been 17th, 14th, and 17th the last 3 in strokes gained approach, tee to green, fairly similar numbers as well. And the real thing that done it for me in the end was 3 years ago, he finished 5th at this golf course, 3rd after round 1. That was with an opening round of 64. On debut, he was 26th. So when he was a much lesser player, Ryan, he's had 2 really good finishes here. And this is the first time we're going to get to play at home as a DPO Tour winner.
Yeah, like you said, just kind of on a heater right now. Really hasn't backed down since he won in Austria. Played really well last weekend. I'm not sure exactly what his game is. He just seems pretty consistent. Yeah, pretty consistent across the board. Obviously a pretty good putter, I would say. And definitely experienced. Like, I mean, he's been around for a decade, right? It doesn't seem that way, but I mean, he's had his tour card since at least, 2014, 2015, something like that. So he's won as an amateur. I believe he's won on the Challenge Tour as well, and now he's won on the main tour. So, yeah, I like riding these guys when they're on a heater, so I have no issue there.
Yeah, he's 55 to 1 in that without the top 4 market. 60 to 1 is the best price if you want to just take him on. But I think, like you, going in that kind of without the top 4 market makes a bunch of sense. Where are we in terms of picks now? We've both got a couple in the longer odds. So let's come to your next couple of guys, Ryan, in the kind of your each ways.
Yeah. So, a couple of each ways here. They weren't as long in the market. But you mentioned Von Dellinghausen getting his first win. Still think we're ready for Angel Ayora to get his. Obviously, we saw some really, really good play last year on the Challenge Tour where he did get across the line, I think only once. But again, really good weekend, finished 7th in Italy last weekend, despite a really poor weekend. I think his only birdie on Sunday was on the very last hole, if I remember correctly. So just the iron play wasn't great, but the short game was sharp. He's really good, really long off the tee, which again, I think is important here. Missed the cut last year here, but that seemed to be all short game. Again, his iron play was good. He gained off the tee, he bombs it. So I was just shocked to see a 66 to 1 with 6 places. I just think he's better than that. He's arguably a top 10 to 15 player on this tour this year. So I took him at 66. And then a recent winner, Callum Hill, well, I guess not that recent, but March. Callum Hill, each way, also with 6 places, finished 3rd last weekend in Italy. Kind of backdoored that a little bit with the Saturday 64, Sunday 68. But again, pretty good sort of all-around player. He's been putting really well, and he has course history here. Tied for 32nd, tied for 10th, tied for 17th in his 3 events here. Not necessarily the biggest threat to win. I just think, again, the price with the 6 places, with the form, with the course history, and now that he got across the line, I think it makes it easier for him to do that again, potentially.
Yeah, so it's interesting with the course form, right? Because I think a lot of players have overcome poor course form to win here in the past. But I think what that is it's quite a volatile golf course. You can get yourself into trouble. And so I think the fact that he's gone kind of 3 for 3 here, Callum Hill, 4 made cuts. And as you said, got that kind of top 10. And actually, when he was 32nd, he was 8th after round 2. When he was 17th, he was 9th after round 2. So he's kind of lived inside the top 10 here throughout those 3 visits, which is really eye-catching. And going back to Ayora, like I mentioned about the Sadal providing a bit of crossover, like the last 3 winners of this event have all got top 4 finishes at Sadal, and Ayora led after round 1 at that golf course and finished 11th. So I think not to put too much weight just into that one correlation, but I think ultimately like it's a good sign. And I think you have to, when you're looking at players in their kind of rookie season and like where is the best possible situation for them, you have to look at these little tidbits like, okay, Sadal and the BMW, provided plenty of crossover in the past, and this is Yora's kind of chance to look at this golf course. I mean, I think he played last year and missed a cut, but like this will be his first time as a kind of fully fledged member and kind of in the form that he's in.
Yep, absolutely. Just I believe in the talent. So
yeah, I agree. Joint pick for us next, and we'll do it in that without top 4 market again on FanDuel. So it's Dan Bradbury, who's 90 to 1. Ryan, I kind of let you bet him last week and didn't take the bait, I guess. This time around, I was not going to do it. I think a lot of what I focused on in my kind of article and preview of the event was, I think it's really important to have someone in your sort of bets that has the potential to be the best iron player in the field. And Dan Bradbury absolutely does have that. He's been inside the top 9.
And I think underrated off the tee, right? Like we've spoken about it. He's certainly gained some distance off the tee the last year. And he went from a pretty bad driver to slightly above average the last couple of years. So that plus the iron play, again, like the putting with him is the issue, but a 3rd and a 7th, and we're still getting him close to 100 to 1. For a guy who's now won twice on tour, just seems like a big number.
Yeah, and as you said, like he's basically broken, level on off the tee the last 2 weeks, but it is now with the kind of quote unquote right side of gaining on distance, whereas as opposed to accuracy, which he would have relied on before, which is great. And I think like when you look at it, he's won in South Africa and then again at the Golf National. It's like 2 courses, not necessarily direct correlations, but just like 2 tough tests that you can score on, like this one, but can get strong as well. That kind of really caught my eye. As you said, 7th and 3rd last 2 starts. He has played here. He finished 43rd, but it was never a case of he didn't kind of play solidly. He just never had that really one low round to get himself into the mix. And again, when I looked at the Sadao Open correlation, he was 10th there in 2023, which I thought was a nice little bonus for someone that was at 90 to 1.
Yeah, like even Sunday, he wasn't really in it, but he was kind of trying to post a number, backdoor a top 3, which he did. And it's like he just hit it to 8 feet and missed every hole. It was pretty infuriating.
But I think the win that he had in France, every time he just constantly thought, oh, his putter's going to go cold, it's going to go cold. And he was electric with it, right? And, I imagine it was, I don't really remember Joe Berg off the top of my head, but I imagine it was a similar situation that, he got hot with that. And then the rest of the year, he just couldn't buy a putt. Like he is that player that is going to, go through different putting strokes. He is going to try loads of different things because he's not just someone that doesn't hole enough. He's just not good at putting, right? But when you've kind of got that floor of excellent ball striking and everything else going for you, I'm really excited about Bradbury because I think he has that potential to really kick on and become maybe like a Jordan Smith, of just like regularly featuring on leaderboards. Maybe not winning as much. Probably wins more than Jordan Smith in the long run, actually.
But they won the Open de France last year. Like that's a tough course. That's a good field. I mean, he beat a lot of guys there.
I remember being on Ollison, really frustrating. Like trying to get Ollison over the line against him. When you've got someone who's just found fairways and greens and for some reason can buy a putt for the first time of the year, like you do become kind of frustrated. But there we go. Before we move on to some of our kind of longer odds picks, I will give a shout out to the audio listeners. So if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you for tuning in. If you're listening to us in audio format only, that's on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, the Mix, which you can find on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, all these good places. You get a chance to listen to the content without having to look at my hot red British face as we get into the middle of the summer. So there's 2 ways to listen to us there. Ryan, getting things back on track, you've got kind of one more that you're playing with an each way.
Yes, old friend Daniel Hillier, who again I think we are big fans of, sort of long term. Just another young guy who's won where he's been. Right, he won as an amateur college, won on the Challenge Tour. He won the British Masters, was it in 23?
Yeah.
And was playing really well earlier this year and then kind of took a dip. But he's now made 3 straight cuts. His iron play seems to be back. He's putting pretty well. His biggest weakness is he can't chip. But he does have a 3rd here in 2023 where he gained around the green. So I don't know. Maybe there's something there where his chipping won't be as terrible as it usually is. I just thought, again, 90 to 1 with 6 places for a proven winner and a guy who I think we're pretty high on. Like I could see him being someone who's like a top 100 player in the world at some point this year. So I thought that was a good price on Daniel Hillier.
I think what I like about Hillier is just the kind of versatility that we've seen from him quite a short, frame. He was inside the top 20 of the Open Championship. He's made a good run at the Dubai Desert Classic. He, as you said, won the British Masters, tough event, 5th in the KLM, 12th in the Irish. Like he doesn't seem to be this kind of one-trick pony where he needs links or he needs an open golf course. He can kind of get around and because he's kind of grown up playing on, in Australia and New Zealand. He's kind of got these, linked pedigree and playing all these different types of shots as well. So it feels like kind of the full package in terms of talent. The consistency is lacking over a long period of time, but he does have these kind of runs as well where he does sort of put runs together where it's like Bahrain, Qatar, and New Zealand were 3 straight top 25s. He did it when he won. I think he just finished 3rd and 5th. Like he is that type of player that can get hot as well.
Yeah, and like you mentioned the upside there, like obviously won, but back to Dubai, like he was hanging with Hatton and Rory and Reed and Ryan Fox and Tom McKibben. Like he did not back down there. I think he led at the halfway point and then was kind of right there all weekend. So just a big believer in that talent. And I thought 90-1 seemed pretty big. I probably wouldn't have bet him at 55 or 60 or anything like that.
Yeah, I get that completely. Talking of players I wouldn't bet at kind of 50 or 60, but felt almost compelled to do so at bigger odds was Romain Langasque. And the reason I kind of make that comment is because he always is in that kind of 33 to kind of 66-1 range where you think he hasn't really done an awful lot to earn that. Whereas all of a sudden he's out to 101 kind of win only. If you want to take him in that kind of without the top 4, he's 90-1. And I don't think Langasque is difficult to work out. Like he repeats form. He's not a one-trick pony, but he goes back to the place. He's a bit of a creature of habit. And if you look at his last 3 years here, he's finished 5th, 38th, and 9th. When he was 5th, he grew into the event all week long, finishing 5th. When he was 28th, he was 4th after round 1. When he was 9th last year, he was 2nd halfway, 3rd going into Sunday. Now, he does have a winning problem. There is that to it. Like he's been around long enough now that he's kind of proven on more than one occasion that he struggles to get over the line. But, also just one of the more kind of classy, consistent operators. Probably until this year, he's been a bit more volatile. But Singapore Classic, he was 15th after round 1, still inside the top 30 at the end of the week, and should have had a chance to kind of go better in the 4th round. 26th in China, fine. 44th at the Turkish Airlines Open. He was inside the top 25 first 3 rounds. He was 13th going into Sunday, and just had a poor final round there. And then Sadao, he closes out with a 66 and finishes 9th. And sure, he had his backers in Austria. I'm sure a couple of people looked at him for Italy last week and probably gave up on him. His irons weren't good last time out, which is a slight concern, but that wasn't the case a couple of starts ago either. So for someone who I think is very much a creature of habit, repeats form, goes back to the same places year on year, I thought Langasque at 190s one was worthwhile.
Yeah, and like you said, he's played really well here. My only concern with him, it's more of a long-term concern. Back in from like 2020 to 2023, when I think he was playing his best, and we were probably betting him a lot. He was really good off the tee. Like he was above average distance, really gaining off the tee all the time. And the last year and a half, he's like lost a ton of distance. And he's like a pretty negative driver now. So like, I don't know if there's something mental, there's something physical, but he's certainly a guy much like a Callum Shinkwin or something like that, right? Where I target their off the tee prowess on certain golf courses, which I think this one is. I just don't know if he is the same golfer, but like you said, he is way out there in the 100-1 range this week.
Yeah, I mean, look, and it kind of rings true. You look at his best finishes last year. Sadao, he was, positive in distance and accuracy. He finished 2nd there, 9th at this event last year, and he, again gained off the tee, only marginally on distance, not so much on accuracy, but was down to his driver. He did finish 3rd in Scotland, but that was more razor hot irons and putter. Danish Championship 2nd there, great off the tee again. So he does kind of live and die by his off the tee performances. I guess the only thing is it's not been, in Austria he gained on the tee, and that was all kind of accuracy based. He just seems to have these kind of volatile swings right in that respect. So as you said, long term, slight concern. Short term, I feel like just give him a shot at a big price at the right golf course for him and hope for the best.
I could lump him in. Like I considered Sean Crocker this week, right? He's in slightly better form, but kind of the same idea where like these ball striking driver heavy courses is where I would target them. And like both of them have played this event pretty well. So I can certainly see it there.
Yeah. Final pick for you, Ryan?
Yeah, I have some long shots to talk about too. But for the first time in what seems like forever, we've gone back to Gavin Green. He's been pretty bad for the last year, I would say. But he's now made 3 straight cuts, tied for 21st last week, tied for 13th. And it's been with the iron play, which for him isn't necessarily the norm. He's a good driver, very accurate off the tee. He's obviously, he's historically been a really good putter. Hasn't really been the last year and a half, so that's a problem. But I think, again, coming back to a golf course where he's seen a handful of times, mixed success. I think he's made 4 of his last 5 cuts here. But just been really impressed with the ball striking, the iron play the last couple of weeks. And 150 to 1, like, I don't need much to go on there. Obviously, the big thing with Gavin Green is he's never won. So that's a problem. But still believe in the talent. And I feel like on this type of golf course, I could see him spike. So Gavin Green, 150 to 1. It's my last bet.
Yeah, you're never gonna get too many arguments from me with Gavin Green. The only one, as you said, was the couple of times I felt like I was going to get him over the line. He didn't. As simple as that. The form is definitely trending in the right direction, which is key. Ryan, last week I took a shot on Wiesberger, and for some reason I was excited about it, and he was absolutely terrible. I'm taking another shot here, not a Wiesberger, thankfully. I don't even think he is playing, unfortunately.
Yeah, he always plays.
Yeah. But it's actually Jens Dantorp, and that might seem a bit left field, and it is, but when you sort of dig into it, 36th at the Singapore Classic, he was 4th in India, where he was actually, one of only 4 players to finish level par or better. He was 10th after round 1 at the Turkish Airlines Open, struggled and then clawed it back in the final round. 26th at the KLM, 28th last week in Italy. Opens were 68, closes were 65. And we mentioned Callum Hill just being really consistent on this golf course. And the same can be levied to Jens Dantorp. He was 34th on debut, 37th the following year, and then last year 6th, where he was 3rd going into the final round. Just strikes me as a player that you're going to get a weird couple of players every time on the tour. But he's been 1st and 3rd in approach his last 2 starts. He's been 6th and 23rd tee to green overall. And this isn't a guy that he will be called kind of a journeyman. He's not, he's not young. I think he's kind of 36, and he's been around for a long time. But he has won 3 times on the Challenge Tour as recently as 2022. He's been 3rd at the Scottish Open. He's been 2nd in Sadao in 2023, which was really what kind of made me bite the bullet on him in the end. He finished 2nd there to Forstrom. I just think he's showing enough, especially with the ball striking and the recent starts, to suggest that 170 to 1 is really pretty big. Like, I know it comes with the he's never won before, but it's 170 to 1 without the top 4. I can certainly see a situation where he finishes 5th. Like, let's put it that way.
I don't hate it. He certainly showed up a little bit because, like you said, he seems to have these spike rounds from time to time. Like, he'll just fire a 64 or 65 kind of out of nowhere. I guess like most of the Swedes, he's much more of an accuracy player than a distance player. So I think that kind of excluded him here for me, even though he played well here last year. I was kind of leaning with off the tee distance a little bit more. But yeah, I can't fault you for that. He certainly, he has shown upside in the past. So, and I never argue with a Swedish bet. So
I think it's one of those, right? Like, I think if you look at the winners list and you think about when Stenson won, he was kind of always hitting the 3-wood off the tee. I know he's reasonably long, but he was always hitting 3-wood. Richard Bland was a runner-up here. Corman, like, ultimately, like most golf courses in the modern era, you want to have someone that's got that distance, but I think you can get around here just by being really accurate. And
I would keep him. I would keep him on your radar. As we go to like the Danish Open, the Omega European Masters. Although that's a strong field, but like I think those sort of courses, the Spanish Open, right? Like, I think that's where I would probably look his way as well. But yep, it's a good shout.
Yeah, good. The other thing as well is like, he just comes to mind because Brad put him up when he was fourth at the Indian Open. It really caught me up by surprise.
Yep.
And normally when he's
Sure.
judging like that, it's always a good sign. So, you mentioned long shots.
Yeah, I got a couple that I considered, a couple I just kind of want to mention. So I think we have to start with Jacopo Vecchifossa, who earned his way into this field with the top 10. Yeah. He's down to 350 to 1, so half of what he was last week basically, and it's not a home game anymore. Yeah. But he's obviously playing really well, so like I'm gonna bet a top 20 again and just sort of see if we can get lucky there. The guy that I mentioned last week was RCB, who again had a borderline top 20 finish, bolstered by the putter. He's also 350 to 1. I just feel like, if the ball striking comes all paired up with that putter, like that's a top 5, top 10 threat on a course that he's seen plenty. So I didn't bet either of them, but I think there's some interest there. In terms of our 2 long shots for Sky, so we have to start with the college kid, right? So the highest ranked German amateur in the world recently was Wolfgang Glaw. Goes to the University of Houston. I don't think he's ever won anything in college, but he has consistently improved each of the last 4 or 5 years. Had some top 5 finishes recently where he beat really good fields. Like he beat everybody from the Oklahoma State team. He beat Ballester pretty recently, where he finished 3rd in an event. So again, wouldn't back him to win, but if you're looking for a cheap DFS play, or again a top 20 at 18 to 1 or 16 to 1, I think Wolfgang Glaw is worth a look. And then at 1,000 to 1, who's honestly only on my radar because Sky mentioned him a couple weeks ago, is John Gale. So he had another, I think it was tied for 28th last week in Italy, but the ball striking was tremendous. He was 11th off the tee last week and 8th or 7th in approach play. And so again, the putting and like the short game is the issue. But he's been around forever. He's obviously won in Australia. He's had some good finishes on the main tour. And again, 1,000 to 1. So you're looking at a 25 to 1 or a 50 to 1 even on like a top 10, top 20. I think both of those guys, Glaw and Gale, are certainly worth a look this week.
And that was Daniel Gale, sorry, on the last one.
Sorry, I don't know why I said John Gale. Who's John? Oh, I think that's a poker player, John Gale, that I was thinking. Daniel Gale.
I was frantically searching for John Gale and then realized you must just be talking about Daniel.
Yes.
That's some good finishes.
Yeah, he was. I used to play poker. Yes, he was a poker player. Also from Australia. But yeah, Dan Gale from Australia at 1,000 to 1. Yes, have some interest.
His approach play was really good in Italy last week, Daniel Gale, and gained nicely on approach on distance as well. So
yeah, Sky was on him. So I think he had a good finish in Austria, and then Sky was probably on him the next week after that. But yeah, the ball striking last week was pretty much the best we've ever seen from him on the main tour. So that was pretty interesting. And yeah, guy, he's won in Australia plenty. I don't think he's ever won a Challenge Tour event. I could be wrong on that, but he's won amateur events and obviously won back in Australia. So
I want to circle back to RCB a little bit.
Yeah,
I guess like at his absolute peak, he was like a ball striking machine, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and you could sort of hang your hat on him hitting some good irons. And I guess he didn't hit his irons as well as you would have wanted to last week, but they've been pretty steady, right? These finishes are quite eye catching, and I hadn't thought about him really. I know you mentioned him last week when you sort of said he was on a run of back to back top 22s, and he was 4th last round in Austria. He was inside top 6 going into the final round in the KLM. But you look back to last week, he shot 76 in the opening round, and then finished 63, 67, 70 to basically be borderline 20. Like, as a player of his age, experience, he's kind of won as much as he's won. Once you've opened around a 76 and you can't win anymore, most people just down tools, right? Like, he's obviously fighting something, internally to try and keep himself going. And when you're kind of 350 to 1 in this field, I think it's quite eye catching. To be honest,
I'll for sure. Yeah, I'll for sure bet a top 20. I don't know if I'll go sort of beyond that, just because I want to see him in the mix again.
Yeah,
I mean, God knows it's probably been 4 or 5 years since he was, in contention for something. But yeah, I think the class is permanent with guys like that. And when you're putting that well, like it does not take much, right? Like he's got to be uber confident with the putter right now. So just needs a little ball striking. And I think he's got some low rounds in him.
Yeah, I'm just looking back to kind of the last time. Abu Dhabi in 2022, he finished one shot behind Thomas Peters. Probably the last time he had a chance to win.
What a duo. What a duo that is.
It is, yeah. That's like DP World Tour heritage if ever I've seen it. And he finished 9th at Wentworth that same year, where it got reduced to 54 holes. I think that was when the Queen passed.
Yeah, that probably helped him a little bit.
Yeah, probably didn't have a chance to fall down the leaderboard. But like, there's been some signs, right? And I think as you said, someone like him is putting really well, which actually, ironically, was probably the reason why he didn't win more as a top.
Yeah,
player.
he's just he's just so bad off the tee. He's not long and he's not super accurate, and I just think that's going to limit you. But again, it just takes. He's seen this golf course probably 10 times. He's got
and he's been great.
Handful of top fives there. Yeah, right. So I think it's definitely worth. Maybe we do a first round leader on him if he gets a morning tee time. How about that?
Yeah, I feel like that. I'm trying to talk myself into betting him in some capacity. And I think the first round leader is probably like if he can shoot 63 last week, he opened with 66 in Austria. That's probably the way to go. I guess what's his competition top? He's got tough top Spaniard this week, hasn't he? With Sergio and Chikara, Puig. Maybe it's not Puig. That. Yeah. Even Open 67 Hainan Classic as well. So maybe it's the first round leader. Maybe look at him in kind of free balls and matchups and things like that as well. But he's that solid guy that once he's on this kind of run of form, he can hang around. So I like it. Any other notes, Ryan?
No, I think that's it. Again, we're getting into a really, really strong part of the season. The Scottish Open, the Open Championship, Irish Open. Like this is a fun time. So not to mention the crossover where the rest of these guys go over to the ISCO and the Barracuda. So really fun time of year. Obviously, we have the John Deere as well. And that field is a complete mess. So certainly looking forward to this one.
When Rafa Cabrera Bello goes over to the PGA Tour again and contends, that's going to be a real eye opener.
He's probably going to play the Barracuda and stuff, right? Like I would imagine he's in that cohort. Yeah.
So that would make sense. Yeah. Let's summarize our picks then. So I kick things off with Nicolai von Dellinghausen, which is one of the better names on the DP World Tour. He's 61 best price, but 55 to 1 in that without the top before market that you mentioned on FanDuel. Romain Langasque is 90 to 1 in that without the top 4. Dan Bradbury also 90 to 1. And then Jens Dantorp is 170 to 1. Best price, whether you want to take it without the top 4 or with only. So if you can get on FanDuel, then that's probably the best way to go. And then I think we should probably, unless the tee times are horrendous, Ryan, we should probably stake our claim at this point that Cabrera Bello is going in as first round leader.
Yes, and I'll certainly sprinkle the top 20 on him and Wolfgang Glaw and Daniel Gale. But so my picks, I'll start with the each ways with 6 places: Iora at 66, Callum Hill at 70, and Daniel Hillier at 90. And then 4 picks in the without the top 4 market: Ewan Ferguson 40 to 1, Martin Kuvra 40 to 1, Dan Bradbury with you at 90, and old friend Gavin Green at 150 to 1.
That is a real old friend, Gavin Green. Like, I think for me the toughest one for me that I've left out, and I'm glad you mentioned him, was probably Kuvra. Like, I kind of started right.
I got guilted into betting him again. Like, I shouldn't have, because it's not a great number, but he's just playing so well. So
I think in my head, like I had that, you've had the reservations about the guys not being massively long off the tee. Like, I know he gets it away enough, but that's like he's kind of more focused on the accuracy. And I thought at the shorter odds, I probably didn't want that, and that was kind of where I got. And again, Van Donninghausen's not massive, so yeah, he'd be the one that kind of hurt me, but good for us if he gets over the line for the show. Ferguson just makes a ton of sense, right? 40-1.
I think Cooper was hitting it further. Like, I mean, last week he was bombing it off the tee. Like, he was just hitting driver everywhere. And like, I know it was hot and it was firm, so it could have been skewed a bit since a lot of guys were hitting irons off the tee. But I feel like he had a lot of drives like in that 325, 330 range last week.
He doesn't look like a player. Like, he doesn't look like a player that struggles to hit it far. I don't know if it's like a strategic thing that he just, he knows he can get, reasonably inaccurate with it, so he doesn't sort of maybe plays within himself a little bit. But he's just been so consistent now, right? Like, he's just got consistently putting himself in the mix. He's already been over the line once, so completely understand. I guess we'd be remiss not to mention Sky's big win at the weekend again.
Well, I mean, he had the DFS win twice in a row. Also, I think he bet Aldrich, obviously, last week. I kind of felt that I didn't because I was on everybody of that same ilk. I had Knapp, and then I had Chris Kirk in the playoff as well. So frustrating weekend for sure.
Yeah. So good for Sky, bad for us for the weekend. He also met Stephen Bunting in New York, which is interesting for any UK listeners. Could not have thought of anything least likely than Sky bumping into Stephen Bunting in New York and then taking a picture. But apparently that is a thing. So
that was beautiful. Yeah, that was beautiful.
But no, looking forward to getting some of these events done and dusted again, Ryan. I hope we get the winner this week after he came so close last week. I mean, we have like 4 guys in the top 10 and didn't get the winner. So second and a couple of top 10. So we'll get it this time, and we'll look at one of those long shots to get inside the top 20 again, like Vaki Fossa. I can't even remember his name anymore. So it's pretty impressive.
Do it.
Thank you, Ryan, as ever, and good luck to all the listeners.
All right. See ya.